Tonight, breaking news, a second flying object shot down by the U.S. military, this time in the skies over Alaska. President Biden ordering the takedown after the object, roughly the size of a car, was spotted flying at 40,000 feet, the same height used by commercial airliners. This coming less than a week after that Chinese spy balloon was shot down. But tonight, it remains unclear who this latest object belongs to. We'll have the late details coming in from the Pentagon and what one of Alaska's senators just told NBC News. Also breaking tonight, the FBI searching the home of former Vice President Pence. Agents finding an additional classified document after several were discovered by Pence's lawyer last month. The search launched just hours after he was issued a subpoena related to former President Trump. But will he comply? The situation growing more dire by the hour in Turkey and Syria. 23,000 people now confirmed dead. Rain, frigid temperatures, and even snow worsening the crisis on the ground and hindering relief efforts. Gabe Gutierrez in Turkey again tonight for us. Back here at home, the doppelganger murder plot. A woman found guilty of trying to kill her lookalike with a poisoned cheesecake. Why prosecutors say she did it and how much time she could be facing. Plus, the wild video out of Japan, a boar charging down a mountain, knocking down a snowboarder before taking aim at a second one. What the ski resort is saying about the animal attack. And the dramatic video out of New York, a sailboat exploding while it was tied to a dock. A man pulled from the wreckage. What we're hearing about the cause of the blast. Top story starts right now. And good evening. We begin top story on this Friday night with yet another shoot down in U.S. airspace. This one perhaps even more mysterious than the first. White House spokesperson John Kirby announcing the military detected an unidentified object flying 40,000 feet above Alaska late last night. The vessel, which was unmanned and the size of a small car, potentially posing a risk to commercial aircrafts which fly around that area and in that height. It's not yet clear who the object belonged to. President Biden giving the go-ahead to shoot it down early this morning, the wreckage likely crashing onto the ice-covered waters off Alaska's coast. As soon as teams are able to recover the remnants, it will be analyzed, just as the Chinese spy balloon is being analyzed right now. That balloon, of course, shot down over the Atlantic less than a week ago after traveling all the way across the continental U.S. President Biden in the case, pulling the trigger much faster with this case. Kelly O'Donnell is at the White House tonight and leads us off.
Today, under President Biden's order, a U.S. fighter pilot shot down an unidentified unmanned object the size of a small car.
We're calling this an object because that's the best description we have right now.
This time above the Arctic waters off Alaska, near the Canadian border. At this point, U.S. officials are not saying this is another Chinese spy balloon. In fact, they say they don't know what it was or what it could do.
We do not know who owns it, whether it's state-owned or corporate-owned or privately owned. We just don't know.
Spotted and tracked for about 24 hours, moving northeasterly at 40,000 feet. At that altitude, officials say they did fear this unknown object posed a risk to civilian flights because commercial planes typically fly between 30 to 42,000 feet.
There was a reasonable concern that this could present a threat to or a potential hazard to civilian air traffic.
Officials say two pilots in F-22s were able to determine the object had no pilot. And they did not see the kind of surveillance equipment attached to the Chinese spy balloon that is being recovered and studied.
Was its appearance like the Chinese aircraft?
No, it was much smaller than the spy balloon that we took down last Saturday.
Another big difference, duration. The Chinese spy balloon was shot down 8 days after the U.S. government first detected it, while this time, spotting to shoot down was about 24 hours, in the wake of Republican criticism that the president should have moved sooner to stop the China incursion. Complaints he rejects, saying the military acted when it was safest.
All right, Kelly O'Donnell joins us tonight from the White House. Kelly, have a lot of questions here. I want to start with Alaska's Senator Lisa Murkowski. She spoke with our colleague Lester Holt a little while ago. Let's hear some of what she had to say.
I understand that we're perhaps dealing with different entities here between the high-altitude balloon and what was taken down. But again, what you have is a threat to our sovereignty. So, yeah, we need to move first, and quite honestly, the first line of defense, again, is Alaska. If it comes into Alaska airspace, if it comes over Alaska waters, we need to act. We need to send the message, and we need to be clear and unequivocal that we don't tolerate this, period.
So it sounds like Senator Murkowski was a little happier with the way this situation was handled because she was incredibly critical of the Biden administration earlier this week for the delay in the shooting down of the Chinese spy balloon.
She was among many Republicans who said they were concerned that the Chinese spy balloon was allowed to traverse the United States. And the president has countered that by saying that he wanted to shoot it down quickly, but that the recommendations from the Pentagon told him that he needed to be able to have time to get it to a point where it was over water and at a safer location, and that they were able to collect data during that time. But that didn't satisfy a lot of the critics. In this instance, we see how the duration was much, much shorter from the time they first identified it to taking this still to be identified some kind of object in the air, just over a day. Tom?
Yeah, Kelly, also, I think this is important. We were on the air when this news broke, and I saw you there in the news conference. If you can kind of explain to our viewers how this news trickled out, because it was somewhat unusual.
It was. There was a question about a rumor that one of my other colleagues was asking about, that there was a rumor coming out of Alaska of some military activity. And John Kirby, who is a former Navy admiral, who is a spokesperson for the National Security Council, gave a description of this. And I began shifting in my seat very, very quickly because this struck me as significant breaking news. And the briefing kind of continued on. And so when I could get his attention, I said, let's go through the basics here. How was the president involved? What did this look like? What did it mean? And it struck me as very significant. And obviously, there are many more questions to be answered. And ultimately, when we have some of those answers, we'll have a better picture of what this means. But to have two of these kind of flying unknowns shot down within the span of 1 week by the U.S. military is a big question, to see how the president's response was different in terms of time. And was there a real threat to civilian aircraft or a threat of any kind of surveillance? Those kinds of questions are certainly pressing, and there is much more to be learned. Now, they do believe they can do some recovery of this latest object that was shot down over frozen water in Alaska, so they're hopeful that will give them answers. And there was an update, too, today, Tom, from the other instance with the Chinese spy balloon. They've been recovering pieces of it. Well, today they tell us they recovered a significant amount of the wreckage, identifying it on the bottom of the ocean floor. So they're going to have to go down and get it. But they know where it is, and they believe that will be very beneficial as well.
And that's a huge development. Our Andrea Mitchell was reporting all week about the payload being on the ocean bottom. So that's great. They've spotted it. Kelly, we thank you for all that reporting tonight. While U.S. military officials work to recover the wreckage and learn more about that object, many are calling into question the timing of this incident and the security of U.S. airspace. I want to bring in our panel tonight, NBC News military analyst and retired four-star Army General Barry McCaffrey and Gary Locke, a former U.S. ambassador to China. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining Top Story tonight. General, I want to start with you. I don't want to sound cynical. I'd rather be skeptical here. What changed with the Biden administration that they decided to shoot down this one balloon, which it's still unclear if it was a spy balloon in the first place, and let the other one sort of travel over the continental United States?
Well, I think what happens is every day there are tens of thousands of flights detected by NORAD and thousands of sea targets identified and thousands of balloons floating around the United States, some of them with people suspended near them. And so NORAD has to sort out which ones do we consider a threat. They're not postured really to find balloons, but they're up there, commercial, Google, you name it. So I think the first gigantic 60,000-foot Chinese reconnaissance surveillance balloon, when they finally sorted out what it was overland, and they decided primarily, I think, for the safety of people on the ground to not down it.
Right, and there's some back and forth even about that, General. To be fair, there's some back and forth on whether they could actually have taken it down earlier. Some people said they could have because it was over an area where there was a lot of population. But getting back to my question, which I guess my question to you was, do you think they shot this down because it was a national security threat, or do you think politics was at play here?
Well, I think politics is always in the background for the White House. There's no question about that. But in this case, I think it was a simple answer. This one was down at 40,000 feet, and it represented a potential threat to commercial aviation. I think that's why, in this case, they decided to knock it down before it was overland. General
McCaffrey, we appreciate that. Ambassador Locke, I want to ask you, there's not a lot we know about this second object so far. We're not even sure if the Chinese owned this one. Any sense of what it is and what you think? And did you ever deal with these types of problems when you were ambassador?
No, certainly when I was ambassador, U.S. ambassador to China, we didn't have any issues about balloons. We know that the Chinese use balloons, but they also use very sophisticated, very high altitude satellites. And quite frankly, going back to the balloon of last week, it's rather ironic that they're even still using balloons when they can collect the same information using the high altitude satellites. I have to say, as a former governor of Washington State, that I'm glad that they did not try to shoot down last week's balloon over our territories, because, when they did finally shoot it down over water, it created a debris field of over 7 miles. And if it had landed on land, if they tried to shoot it down on land, it could have fallen on schools, on homes, injured or killed people. And in fact, they were able to neutralize the intelligence gathering capability of last week's balloon. They shot it down over shallow water so that they could actually retrieve it. Had they shot it down over land, it would have been destroyed into smithereens, into millions of pieces, and made it harder to figure out exactly how they used it.
Well, Ambassador, I mean, just to sort of play devil's advocate here, they're also searching the bottom of the ocean floor for the entire payload, which is the most important part. So I mean, we can kind of go back and forth on where it landed was best. I don't know if that's important. I do want to ask you, though, since you know China so well, what do you think the symbolism of a U.S. warplane firing a missile and blowing this thing out of the sky? What kind of sort of symbolism did that send to China, do you think?
Well, obviously, they're going to try to say that last week's balloon, because we really don't know who owned this balloon that was shot down today. Was it Russian? Was it Korean? Was it a commercial enterprise? I mean, they sent up fighter jets at 40,000 feet to determine that it was not collecting intelligence, and that it was a much smaller a balloon carrying much smaller things, about the size of a small car. And so shooting it down did not pose as much danger to people on the ground. But we're going to have to find out what's going to happen. But remember, the United States had a spy plane over Russia back in 1960, and it was shot down. And we said at the time it was only collecting weather information, but Russians retrieved the hardware, the materials, captured the pilot, and we had to admit that it was a spy plane. So all countries engage in espionage. What's ironic is that the Chinese are still using balloons, where they also have these high altitude satellites high up in the sky where no one could ever see it. We have the same thing. The Russians have the same thing. The French, the Germans, yes. Everybody has these high altitude satellites spying on each other.
General, talk to me about the temperature right now between China and the United States. We have the issue of Taiwan that's still out there. We had an Air Force official on the record telling his troops to get ready for 2025, I think was the date. What is the shooting down of the Chinese spy balloon? And that's sort of the question I was getting at with the ambassador. What kind of signals does that send to Beijing? And do you think this just makes matters worse as far as tensions are concerned?
Well, look, China and the United States have an enormous need to continue to have diplomatic dialogue, economic cooperation, and to mitigate the risk of military confrontation. I think that's going to happen. That Air Force four-star general was completely out of line in stipulating that he thought war was coming imminently. It's not going to happen. Wise policy, unless there's a terrible misjudgment by the PLA, will prevent a war between the U.S. and China. We're trying to deter one, not fight one. So I think possibly we'll get beyond this. We'll get the visit of the Secretary of State back online. The danger in my mind is that President Xi isn't in control of his own security forces and intelligence operation. That last week's balloon at 60,000 feet, a giant object being reported by tourists on the ground, was such a brazen provocation, we had to take action. So I'd like to see the dialogue open up. I assume that will happen in a month or so.
Yeah, because it sounds like they're stalling at this point. Ambassador General, thank you so much for joining Top Story tonight. We appreciate all your analysis. We want to turn to another major headline we're following tonight. The FBI searching the home of former Vice President Pence weeks after his team turned over a small number of classified documents discovered at his residence. This amid reports he's also facing a subpoena from the special counsel investigating President Trump's role in the January 6th insurrection. NBC News senior congressional correspondent Garrett Haake has this.
FBI agents today searching the Indiana home of former Vice President Mike Pence. His spokesman saying they removed one document with classified markings and 6 additional pages. Agents conducting the search after the former VP's attorneys turned over a, quote, small number of classified documents discovered by his attorneys last month. A search Mr. Pence authorized after classified material was found at President Biden's former private office and Delaware home.
Mistakes were made, and I take full responsibility.
Today's FBI search, like the 2 recent searches of President Biden's Delaware homes, happening after negotiations with the Department of Justice and did not require a warrant, according to a DOJ official. The search coming just hours after Mr. Pence received a subpoena demanding testimony from the special counsel investigating former President Trump's handling of classified material and January 6th, according to a source familiar with the matter. Mr. Pence has called the former president's conduct on that day reckless, but has stopped short of saying whether he thinks Mr. Trump broke the law.
I don't know if it is criminal to listen to bad advice from lawyers. Truth is, what the president was repeating is what he was hearing from that gaggle of attorneys around him.
Garrett Haake joins us now. Garrett, do we know why the former vice president had to be subpoenaed? I ask because it seems like he's been forthcoming with the document search, and he detailed the events around January 6th in his book. It feels like if he would be open to talking and open to working with the DOJ, why wouldn't they just do that? I'm just wondering if the subpoena was a sign that he was stonewalling.
Well, forthcoming to a point. Remember, he refused to testify in front of the January 6th committee and has never talked about the events of that day under oath. I think there's a big difference between what you say in a book where you control the narrative and how you respond to questions from federal prosecutors. This is the kind of thing that could ensure his compliance under oath and, from the Pence perspective, maybe even provide a little bit of political cover down the line that he was compelled to testify rather than volunteering to testify against a figure who's still so popular, at least in one corner of the Republican Party.
Garrett, that's a great point, and it brings me to my next question. He hasn't announced yet, but former Vice President Pence is expected to make a run for the White House. How could this complicate his campaign?
It could make it significantly more difficult. Pence has to run on the Trump record, but as not being Trump, either he nor Nikki Haley or perhaps Mike Pompeo, all former Trump administration officials who are considering running for president, have figured out exactly how to square that circle to be Trump-like, embrace the Trump record, but not be Trump and also not be his enemy. It's a very complicated political dance they're all going to have to go through starting in these next couple of months, Tom.
All right, Garrett Haake for us. We appreciate it, Garrett. We want to head overseas now, and tonight authorities in Turkey and Syria say the staggering death toll from this week's earthquake has grown to more than 23,000. Can you believe that? But still, after 4 days, rescuers are still finding life. Gabe Gutierrez with some stunning stories of survival.
Tonight, against all odds, some 5 days after those massive earthquakes, there are still survivors being pulled from the rubble, including a 10-day-old baby trapped for 90 hours under concrete, and a little boy pulled out alive. Rescuers reaching his sister next. This 17-year-old hoisted from the wreckage to applause and hugs from his mother and brother. Across Turkey and Syria, moments of joy and relief despite so much pain. This woman embracing her sister's rescuer, who said, "Now I believe in miracles." This girl and her father also somehow alive. In another city, NBC's Matt Bradley saw Turkish rescue teams achieve the impossible.
This is extraordinary. More than 72 hours after the initial quake, they're just now pulling out someone who they believe is alive.
Another man praying as he's lifted out of the rubble. He'd been trapped for 104 hours. In that same city, Kahramanmaraş, Turkey, we saw new frantic search efforts today at the quake's epicenter. While Feride Turo tried to make sense of it all. Her home's destroyed.
How grateful are you to be alive?
Endless gratitude, she says. We were crying, screaming, she says. Everyone was crying for help.
The destruction here is immense. This is what's left of the historic city center. Building after building in ruins. And it's just one of 10 major cities across southern Turkey in the earthquake zone.
More international aid is pouring in from around the world, but it's struggling to reach some of the hardest hit areas, including northwestern Syria, where the UN estimates more than 5 million people are now homeless. Back in Turkey, Ersin Nabantalu walked this street every day. She tells me countless friends and family members are still missing throughout the city.
How hopeful are you that some of them may still be found?
I have lost hope, she says. We're in shock right now. As night fell and the fires to keep warm started burning, more of her words would resonate. I don't think we realize the magnitude of this disaster, she says. It's unbelievable. The whole city is gone now.
Gabe Gutierrez joins us tonight from Gaziantep, Turkey. Gabe, you were just telling me about all the compelling scenes you've been witnessing. And I know you're now at the site of where a 17-year-old was pulled out alive today.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. It is an incredible story. You saw some of that video in the piece, but this is the site where that 17-year-old was taken from the rubble. He survived underneath a table in the basement, and he even heard the excavator coming for him and had to move around the basement to try and avoid it. Well, he was taken out of here to the hospital. His family had waited at the site here for days, waiting for word. Tom?
Yeah, and we're now talking about 100-plus hours, and these people are still being pulled out alive. It is truly incredible. The quake affected not only Turkey, but Syria as well. I know you have a breaking update from Syria.
Yeah, some sad news out of Syria, Tom. The civil defense there says that rescue operations in Syria have ended. It is now a recovery mission in Syria. But again, still active rescues going on here on the Turkish side of the border. Tom?
That is terrible news out of Syria. Okay, Gabe, we thank you. Still ahead tonight, the doppelganger murder plot. The woman convicted of trying to poison her lookalike with a cheesecake. Why prosecutors say she did it. Plus the boat explosion caught on camera right there at a dock in New York. What authorities discovered at the scene amid all that debris. And the new video showing the moment gunshots rang out in Times Square, sending tourists ducking for cover. The manhunt now underway. Stay with us. Top story just getting started on this Friday. We're back now with a bizarre murder plot involving a cheesecake. A woman in New York convicted of trying to kill her doppelganger by serving her the dessert laced with sedatives. So why did she want to kill her? Prosecutors say it was an attempt to steal the woman's identity. Valerie Castro has a story.
A poison cheesecake at the center of an attempted murder trial. A New York jury finding the woman who served it guilty. Victoria Nasarova convicted of trying to kill Olga Sik, who at the time in 2016 looked a lot like Nasarova. Nasarova stole from her victim, including a gold ring, according to the Queens district attorney. But prosecutors say her real motive was to steal, quote, her most valuable possession, her identity, and took her passport. But the pastry plot failed when Sik survived. Investigators tested the dessert, finding it laced with the powerful sedative phenazepam. Nazarova was arrested, pleading not guilty in court to no avail. The conviction coming on the heels of another similar high-profile case in Germany, where a woman is accused of killing an Instagram lookalike to fake her own death. Back in 2017, the NYPD telling NBC New York that Nasarova was an international fugitive, wanted for allegedly murdering a woman in her native Russia before fleeing to Brooklyn.
Couldn't be determined how she was murdered because her body was set ablaze.
She denied the allegation to 48 Hours on CBS in 2017.
I'm not a killer. I'm woman. Only woman.
The alleged murder victim's daughter enlisting the help of a private investigator who captured this video of Nasarova in New York and then worked with the NYPD who made the arrest.
Kind of tugged at my heartstrings, and when I heard this long, horrible, tragic story that just wouldn't end for this young lady because there was no end in sight.
Police at the time say she was also suspected of drugging men she met on a Russian dating app to steal from them.
She's a con artist who meets people online to a dating site and then drugs them at some point and then takes their property from them and then flees.
One of those men testifying in the trial, as well as the daughter of the alleged murder victim in Russia, all pushing the jury to deliver that not-so-sweet guilty verdict.
Okay, Valerie Castro joins us now live here on Top Story. So, Valerie, what other charges are we talking about here?
So she was actually convicted of 5 different crimes, including assault, attempted assault, unlawful imprisonment, and petty larceny. She'll be sentenced in March and is facing up to 25 years in prison. Her attorney did issue a statement saying while they are disappointed in the verdict, they respect it and, quote, are exploring our options going forward.
Time now for Top Story's news feed, and we begin with the manhunt in New York City after a deadly shooting in Times Square. New surveillance video shows people running from the gunshots on a packed sidewalk. Police say a 22-year-old man was shot in the chest outside of a Shake Shack and later died. This all happened during the day. The NYPD now searching for at least 2 people. A boat explosion caught on camera on New York's Long Island. Surveillance video, take a look at this, shows a sailboat was blown to pieces while it was docked. Look at that. A 44-year-old man had to be airlifted to the hospital, but he is expected to survive, thankfully. Officials say a leaking propane tank was found on the scene. And a warning tonight about a popular baby stroller following the death of a child. The Consumer Product Safety Commission issuing the warning over Baby Trend's sit and stand double and ultra strollers. The agency says children can get trapped in an opening if they are not properly strapped in. A 14-month-old died and another child was seriously hurt. The strollers are sold at major retailers such as Amazon, Walmart, and Bye Bye Baby. There's more information on our website, NBCnews.com. Okay, we want to turn now to the devastating earthquake and how some of the survivors are coping. Many have lost loved ones, as you know, or they're still holding out hope to find them alive, as we saw in Gabe's piece. This while finding themselves homeless and fearful of aftershocks. Kelly Kobiella visited a mosque with worshipers taking refuge amid the unspeakable tragedy.
A call to prayer for a country in mourning. At this mosque in Gaziantep, people are in shock and despair. Some lost loved ones, some lost their homes, and all lost their sense of safety. The imam saying, we offer prayers to those who died, those who were missing, and for God to give strength to the rescue workers trying to find them. As the prayers ended, out came the blankets and pillows. This mosque now doubling as a shelter for more than 1,000 earthquake victims, nearly all of them Syrian refugees. Do you like living here?
Yes. Why? I like it.
She told me she and her family, all 10 of them, are sleeping on the floor in the mosque. They fled Aleppo in 2012 when bombs were falling on their city. But now they've lost everything again.
How is your house? It's broken.
Their home, the sisters all told me, completely destroyed. More than 1 million Syrian refugees live in the area devastated by Sunday's quake. They're among the country's poorest. Jobs are almost impossible to find. Pay is low. And now, a new crisis.
What do we do now?
Doa's home is still standing, but she, like so many here, worries it's unstable. Khalid says his family is staying in a nearby wedding hall.
We are not pretty sure if it's safe or not, due to seeing the numerous amount of videos of people and living the shock firsthand.
These are the scenes they're terrified of. Just a few miles away, building after building destroyed. Rescue crews sifting through thousands of tons of collapsed concrete and twisted metal. As we arrived, a call for silence. Searchers listening for any sounds of hope. But after a long wait, nothing. They keep digging while relatives watch from behind a barricade. Then a family called forward. Someone's been found, but it's not good. They didn't survive. The bodies brought down to an ambulance. 45-year-old Ugur Budak's brother-in-law and his brother-in-law's family are among the 36 still missing under all this concrete. It's been 120 hours, he tells me, saying we get our hopes up every time someone is rescued, but time is passing. He praised the search crews and pleaded for more help, convinced if only they had more specialist equipment to hear signs of life in these mountains of rubble, more people would be found alive. He's still waiting. The last time crews here pulled out anyone alive was yesterday morning. And tonight we heard an entire family screaming out in agony when they learned their loved ones didn't make it. Tom?
Screams probably heard all throughout southern Turkey and northern Syria since this horrible natural disaster occurred. Kelly Kobiea for us. We turn now to Top Stories Global Watch, and staying with those devastating earthquakes, soccer star Christian Atsu is still missing despite earlier reports that he had been found alive. The Ghanaian winger played for several Premier League teams, including Chelsea, before joining a Turkish professional club. He was last heard from on Sunday, hours before the disaster struck. Authorities in Israel say a bus stop attack in East Jerusalem was terror-related. Police say a man drove his car into a group of people waiting for the bus in an Israeli settlement. 2 people were killed, including a child, and several more hurt. Authorities say the driver was shot and killed at the scene by an off-duty police officer. And a wild boar attack was caught on camera at a ski resort in Japan. This one's truly strange. New video shows the boar coming down the slope in Niigata and charging at a snowboarder, knocking him over. The animal also charging at another snowboarder who tried to use his board to defend himself. Staff at the resort says this is the first time wild boars have appeared on the slopes. Luckily, no one was hurt. Coming up, the tech giants in the newest battle in the race to win the AI war. We'll explain. Stay with us. Welcome back. 2023 already feels like it's going to be the year AI truly started making its mark in a way we could all see and feel. At the same time, this exciting technology is expanding. There are fears over the dangers. Here's our man who knows the tech world inside and out, Jake Ward.
A multi-billion-dollar duel is underway to be the front door of the internet.
The race starts today.
Microsoft announced this week that artificial intelligence will soon allow conversations with its software and search engine Bing. Google raced to announce similar plans. Both tech giants trying to change the internet from a world in which we navigate between web pages to one where interactive discussions with chatbots gives us information.
We only scratched the surface of what's possible with AI.
For a generation, Google has been the verb for finding things online, and it commands more than 90% of the search engine market. But Microsoft, thanks to its partnership with ChatGPT maker OpenAI, is on the attack.
The most profitable large software business is search. So I look at this and say, I just have to earn it one user at a time. I've never, ever felt this liberated in terms of opportunity in the days ahead.
It definitely is an arms race. Bing is rocketing up the App Store charts. So much of the world is organized around serving Google and understanding what people are searching for in Google.
Chinese tech giants Baidu and Alibaba also plan to debut new AI technology. But while chatbots look authoritative, AI can make mistakes. Google's own demo for its new chatbot called Bard included a basic factual error, and research has shown that AI trained to mimic human language picks up our biases.
Just having for-profit companies pushing this technology out is a recipe for a multitude of problems.
Critics worry the race to make money from AI technology is moving too fast.
I would love to hear a CEO saying, look, we've got the research, we're capable of making it, but we're pausing, and we urge others to do so as well, instead of just saying, oh, we're going to outrace the other.
But with billions at stake, the race is already on. Jake Ward, NBC News, San Francisco.
We thank Jake for that report, and we thank you for watching Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.